Hello and welcome to Smack Talk. I'm your host, Thomas LaGrasse.
I'm Max Farrell.
I'm Deja Isom.
I'm Gabe Gribbin.
And I'm Jacob Stevens.
And this week we will be talking about video games as art. So, Jacob, let's get your opinions on this first.
Well, what's particularly about it? Video games are a type of art, just as paintings in a museum or sculptures. Video game has its own art style. It has its own unique way of making art. Now, depending on the type of video game, it's a bad video game. No, it's not art.
So you're saying Sonic 06 is not premium gold art?
That's an abstract art piece.
I was about to say art. Glitching around, man, that's art in itself.
It's just art no one understands.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
because none of us will ever know what it's like to stand upside down in a loop that you're supposed to be running over.
Hey, man, just because I had the flu and 106-degree fever and I finally understood Sonic 06, it's not a good place.
Okay, so I guess the biggest problem with the debate on whether or not video games can be art is we don't really define what art is. So what is art to all of you?
Should I start?
Yeah, you can
Go
start.
ahead.
Art is, this is probably an unpopular opinion,
Oh, boy.
art is literally anything. Art is something that's made or not made, something that exists. Anything can be art. You just have to define it as art. So it's pretty arbitrary, but if you're talking about art in the academic sense, art is something that's made with the intention of showing your creative spirit through some medium or another. So like a phone call, or it could be art. Anything that someone else can perceive can be art.
Deja.
Sorry.
It's your turn, Deja.
I think
That's
art,
really creepy.
Beep, beep.
It's normally creepy.
I
This
think
is normal.
art is determined by other people. Like when Shakespeare first wrote it, it's probably just a play, and then people started watching and then admiring it, and then it becomes art.
So art is like a secondary thing. Like it's not
Yes.
something isn't initially created as art. It's when other people
Yes.
interpret it as art.
Yes.
Alright.
I feel art is something, it's basically something that someone else creates to provoke either an emotion or a thought or an idea, which literally means anything. Like literally, I could just make some hand gesture that provokes the image of anger or, I don't know, something, other emotions. Maybe a butterfly, you feel happy? I feel happy, that's art right there.
Isn't that how we do like our mascot, the phoenix?
Why are you? Oh, I can't say that word. Never mind. Go ahead.
Art is something that is unique and has an underlying meaning to it. Something that you have to really think about. Something that will make you keep continuing to think about it. Is this what it really means? Is this what it really means? When you can find that, that's art.
But what if it's a simple, because books are considered an art form, but
Some books are just.
I was about to say some books are really simple. Like there's no deep meaning to where the wild things are.
But wait,
Well-
yeah, there is. That's a bad example.
Actually, that was a really bad example.
Twilight.
Yeah. Where's the
Pretty
deep-
much all laid out there.
Yeah. Yeah, that's pretty much
She wants to do a vampire and
But-
whatever
Well,
else.
there are such things as good and bad art.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Sonic 06.
Well,
So,
It is in the eye of the beholder.
So none of you seem to really disagree that video games are art. So what is the most artistic game that you've played?
I'd probably say, in terms of academic, again, art, I'd say probably Journey. It seems like, for anybody who hasn't played Journey, it's basically a game where you go through the entire game. There's the story isn't really told through words; it's told more through runes and images, and it really feels like you're almost inside of an abstract art piece with a little bit more tangibility and form to it.
I get, to me, I don't quite agree that video games are art yet. I think we still have some growing to do, especially in how people view us. Like I said, art is how people interpret it, and video games and our community isn't exactly interpreted in the best light. Like we have some growing up to do before I think we can really elevate our ourselves to an art form.
Objection!
No, excuse
I
me.
spit.
Wonderful. You just spit. Don't do that anymore. You're
So-
done.
Covering everybody in
Okay.
spit is not an art.
Now,
just
there's
so you know.
different ways it can be interpreted as
Evoke an
art.
emotion.
Like, I'll give you 2 games. Or 3. Beyond Two Souls, Heavy Rain, and The Last of Us. Those I consider serious art because Heavy Rain, mostly for its amazing graphics. It's so realistic that you can almost see another person. It's almost like you're watching a reality TV show, say. The Last of Us, it tells an amazing story, a story that's been told before. It's a zombie apocalypse and all this, but the way it's executed is an art form.
Like there's a button in the main menu that you can just watch the cutscenes you've unlocked, and you can actually watch it as a whole movie, and it kind of makes sense.
And what he said, that's my problem with Heavy Rain and Beyond Two Souls. It wants way too hard to be a movie, and it's like the whole thing. I don't like graphics over gameplay. I don't like that. Last of Us, I do. It is an art.
Not quick
But-
events.
Like I was talking about the medium as a whole, considered the whole thing as an art form, and
But then you're talking about every video game being an art. You can't say that. Only certain ones can. Not everything in one genre can be an art.
finger painting's technically an art, but you wouldn't frame it.
I was about to say, so then how do you feel about the game that was just released for the PS4 about a month ago, Dying Light? It's a mystery horror game that takes place in the original Resident Evil kind of style where you walk around in a fixed view, and it's basically held by only QuickTime events. Like that's pretty much the entire game other than walking around through.
I'm not a fan of quick time events. Yeah, that's cheap gameplay.
But
like,
well, no, it's the thing is it has a very large branching story, and so am I the only one who's seen it or played it at least a little bit?
The only thing I think of Dying Light is that zombie game.
It might not be Dying Light. It's,
Yeah, that's not Dying Light. Dying Light's the one where you're in the zombie apocalypse, you're an agent from another...
Yeah.
Good job.
It's a
It's okay.
PS4 title.
You'll get it.
I don't know, but they made it to where they're trying to merge the movie and gaming genre because it tells a branching story that changes for every person that plays
That's Until
it.
Dawn.
Until Dawn. That's
Very close. Very
How do you
close.
get that mixed up with Dying Light?
Light, the sun, Until Dawn.
Well,
like, there's-
Please, someone interrupt him.
Stop me, please. My ship's crashing around me.
you're right, and I think part of the question we're running into is video games are becoming so graphically advanced so quickly, and so many AAA titles have quality that like animated movies can't even reach. Like there's such a great pouring in of work and artists' values and all this stuff poured into video games now. It is becoming really high quality. It's not just 8-bit graphics anymore. And I mean, I recently got a 3DS. I've just been playing PC games for a while. I just picked up my first console in a while, and I was really surprised with how it's not. I'm gonna say Super Mario 3D Land. I know that's not like really considered art,
The pinnacle of art.
but it is more. They're progressing towards making it more movie-like, more art-like. But I think my main problem with the term art is it's kind of here. It's kind of above everybody's head, and it's put in that place by academics and people that run the Museum of Modern Art. Everybody else it's all the people on the edge, and that we don't know and we can't talk to figure out what art really is. They just kind of define what art is, and we have to go, well, this is art. I mean, YouTube poop is technically defined as art. So we can't really. I don't think it's art really that we're looking for. It's what's good, what's interesting, and I think that's what video games are about. It's not just about how graphically appealing it is, or it's not just about the gameplay. It's all sorts of elements that have to work together.
Well, that's how games kind of have held up from a point, because fantastic games like, if you can imagine Majora's Mask and Ocarina of Time on the N64, you remember those games as being graphically beautiful. You play them now and they're visually like, I am the triangle. I live the triangle. I fight the triangle. But you still play it, you replay it, you have fun still, because it's not the graphics really that make it an art, it's more of the gameplay.
Yeah.
And it kind of feels poopy because a lot of games now are focusing on the graphic standpoint because we've kind of reached the Pentium of we are lifelike now. Like there is no closer we can get other than the random uncanny valley of eyeballs because games can't get that right for some reason.
And spaghetti for some reason.
And
I don't know what that's about. But I think you're right. We have kind of reached, the pinnacle of where we can get with graphic design for right now. I think the AAA games have kind of topped out, and people are kind of like, well, every game it's all looks realistic now, so there's no real progression. But like when you look at it, more games are getting released lately that are going back. They're using old mechanics like Undertale.
Yeah.
And they're using old mechanics, but they're using old mechanics, old graphics, but they're telling new stories and they're approaching new topics. And I think that's what I'm more interested in video games than how they look, is what stories they tell, what underlying narrative there is.
That and how they can spin it.
Yeah.
Because Undertale, wonderful example. I forgot all about Undertale, even though I've been playing it for since its release religiously. But the game, it takes the classic RPG and just goes, nope. You think you're playing an RPG, but really you're not. Like, the entire game you can go without killing anything.
Yeah.
Like, you can just avoid it by complimenting the monsters. Or
wiggling your butt.
I was about to say, or wiggling your butt at that slime, You lie down, wiggle your butt, and you understand more about the world.
Well, we're almost out of time. Before we end this episode, I'd like to ask just a real quick question. Would you go to an art museum to see any sort of video game as an exhibit there? Or do you think they shouldn't be exhibited in that kind of setting?
I think that's a really interesting concept. There are video game museums, and I think that's I think it's great. I think that, but it's like any other art, like moving pictures, like film. It's kind of hard to do it in a museum. I think I'd go to see the original drawings from Super Mario Bros. Or from Metroid or whatever. I don't think I'd go to see the video games being played because I can do that. I'd like to see how they came about.
Inspiration in that.
Yeah.
Like,
So
Yeah,
some of the behind the
I
scenes
would.
stuff you'd want to go see
But
at
to
the
me, I think it
museum.
should be
basically.
broken into like games that are graphically beautiful and games that are mechanically beautiful. Because the simplicity of Portal, despite it still being technically a first-person shooter, it's somehow better than most first-person shooters. Right?
Yeah, actually, yeah, by far.
poor companion games.
Let's not have that first-person shooter debate right now.
I don't know.
7-hour debate.
Is it
All right.
Any other opinions on the art exhibit?
I would say it depends because right now in the Modern Art Museum they have Super Mario and actually I don't even think Super Mario's in there. It was Pac-Man. They had a very selected few, and it was like Pong and Pac-Man. So I feel as if right now, like even beautiful games like if you've ever seen Child of Light, it was a very brief game on the Steam that kind of blew up for a week and then kind of disappeared.
What game
But-
is this?
Child of Light.
I know what you're
Very
talking
pretty,
about.
very painting. Everything looks like it was painted, and it all depends on the game. But I think for art, it has a time period, because I remember back when I was a kid where people thought video games were just trash. Like when I was a little kid, people just pooped on it all day long, and now people appreciate it more. Like they're like, wow, these things are really beautiful, and we should appreciate them. I think it just takes time for art.
Jacob, do you have any closing thoughts before we wrap this episode up?
You stop. I think just to agree with what you said, I would go to a museum to see kind of the behind the scenes thing for video games, like concept art, design art, stuff like that. That is kind of what I would think you'd see at a video game museum. That would be, how should I put it?
optimal.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you're
Optimal.
still trying to break art into other traditional medium like drawing. It's not a video game at that point.
If
It's the drawing.
you're gonna say that, then art is people's opinion.
It is though.
I want a
That's not
museum of
bad.
people's opinions stat.
Objection! I just want note cards with people's opinions on them.
Yep.
Like right here.
And on that note, we are out of time. This has been Game Talk, and we will see you next week.